How can support workers prevent becoming burned out?
Well, I think it's really hard. I've experienced burnout and I have thought a lot about it. And I think partly it stems from what we were just talking about, when what you are trying to do is impossible given the resources that are available to you to do your job. And when you are in a position of working in a way that is in conflict with your values. Mm-hmm. So I think the combination of those two things right now are probably leading to a lot of burnout in healthcare workers and shelter workers and housing support workers and teachers. I think a lot of people are probably like right on the edge of burnout right now, because for a social worker, like your job is to connect people to things, services, resources. Well, if you can't, because there is no service pathway that leads to services anymore, if it's going to be a year wait list to get access to a psychiatrist, for example, how do you keep doing your job?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have shifted, I've seen this shift towards planning for things. Like rather than doing, we just plan to do, like we plan for people. But I think, again, it's this way of reconciling the impossibility of achieving your professional mandate under these conditions of vastly insufficient resources. And it seems to me that the need keeps growing. And instead of acknowledging that growth and like attending to it, we actually are shrinking the resources that we have. And again, under COVID, like a lot of services shut down. So the need grew and the service provisioning shrunk.
Mm-hmm. Which also kind of sounds like it's more of a systems lack of resource burnout,
yes,
or fatigue, and not necessarily a person burnout or fatigue. That's not actually the cause of it. It's the lack of resources that we're able to offer people in need.
Yes, and that does create like an outcome that is felt at the level of the individual body, right? Because every day to go and do almost like a hamster wheel kind of thing is exhausting existentially, emotionally, and physically. And I think that on top of that, people who work in housing tend not to be paid enough. So they have real economic stressors under the conditions that we're living in right now that exacerbate all of the work-related stress that they're experiencing. So not only are they burning out because the work is impossible, but they also are living under conditions of economic insecurity that compound that. And so this is like an interesting thing to me academically. I don't know if this is like interesting for your book, but academically, I'm really interested in the way that these things we see as structural create an embodied, like a shared embodied experience, so that we burnout sort of registers. We actually call it a conduct disorder at the level of diagnosis. An adjustment disorder. Mm-hmm. An adjustment disorder. So it registers as a pathology on individuals, but it's created by contexts that are shared and that are toxic. And so to have more conversations about, the language that we use also to make sense of human suffering individualizes what are often systemic problems. And I think that engaging shelter workers, for example, in a conversation about that, I think they could relate. A lot of people who work in social services and in housing have experienced material deprivation. Like they may have experienced homelessness themselves. These are things they will really people could relate to. And so I think that part of the work of attending to burnout is acknowledging the roots with people in ways that don't make them feel like it's their fault.
Well, we set them up, don't we? We go, and certainly in nursing, we we educate people who've come into nursing because they want to care for folks and they have a strong desire to help and high empathy and high compassion and all of those kinds of things. And then we throw them out there and it's almost like, well, you obviously don't care enough because you're not getting where you need, you're not, you know, right? You're not making a difference. You've come in to make a difference and you haven't made a difference. When the system, as you say, is the brick wall that we're throwing at them.
Yeah, and it's impossible to care in the ways that you were taught to care as a nurse, given the constraints of, for example, emergency rooms in Quebec that are past capacity every single day, right? There's no time to care.
Right.
It's the same for teachers. We do the same. I taught in the faculty of education for years, and we do the same to teachers.
Yeah. And then we underfund things. So the conversation in the organization that's supporting you doesn't become about the caring anymore. It becomes about the efficiencies and the effectivenesses and how can we better get a better bang for our buck. And so, you know, people who really are wired to care and work and help are hit from all directions about with these other measuring sticks that has nothing to do with the work, really.
And I think, again, if you were able to study this epidemiologically, it could probably be shown to be eroding health outcomes, like a lack of care in a healthcare setting is problematic for health.
For health.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.